This webinar today is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. We're going to be discussing how to avoid senior financial exploitation. And this may not hit home directly for you, but it might give you some insight as to why our seniors are so targeted and how it affects them, and kind of how you can help prevent any exploitation coming to those that you love, and the signs to look for when someone's being exploited. First off, the Texas Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner licenses and regulates certain non-depository institutions such as pawn shops, payday loan lenders, and registered creditors. We protect and safeguard consumers like yourself against abusive and deceptive lending practices, and we educate consumers and creditors about your rights and responsibilities. So the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner is actually an agency that is here for you. If you think that any of the industries that we license or register, if you have any concerns or complaints about any of them, you can call our Consumer Assistance Helpline at the bottom of your screen right now. So one of the big things we love doing at the OCCCC is providing financial education. I am the financial education coordinator and the grant coordinator. We provide financial education through informational seminars and webinars. We used to do these in person. I really miss that part of it because I could be in there with you guys. You'd raise your hand and we could just do things on the fly right there. And it was great, and there was a lot of interjecting. We also provide financial education materials like the handouts today, which can also be found on occc.texas.gov. We provide public service announcements and press releases, and we partner with other education-oriented organizations. Being the grant coordinator, I always like to mention this because we take care of the Texas Financial Education Endowment at the OCCC. And what that is an endowment that is a 2-year cycle, and we give funding to different organizations across the state of Texas. So if you know anyone who needs information on that, please let them know. And we provide funding, we provide grant funds so that they can provide financial education programs for K through 12, adults, and financial coaching for low or no cost in their areas. And so it's a really big deal for us and something we're really proud of. Avoiding senior financial exploitation. Why is this important? Because there are over 50 million Americans who are 62 or older. And for some reason, they are a prime target for exploitation. Maybe it's because they're aging and people are relying on those frailties. Maybe it's because people think that you've saved all this money your whole life and you're just sitting on a stack of cash under your mattress. But today we want to recognize and reduce the risk of senior financial exploitation. We want to plan for unexpected loss of the ability to manage your finances. That's what people are also targeting. And we want to identify resources and manage money and reporting financial exploitation. A big problem with seniors, and maybe it's not you, but maybe it's your grandparent, maybe it's your parents, aunt or uncle, they're in this category. And they've come to a point in their life where they're older, so this shouldn't be happening to them. So they're embarrassed to talk about it. They're embarrassed to share it, but it's really easy to report financial exploitation regardless of your age, actually. So what does this mean? This means that it is the theft of money or property by people who take care of you or are really close to you, or they could be strangers, but more than likely, sadly enough, when it comes to exploitation, it's going to be someone close to you, especially if you're older and you're dependent on other people. It comes in the forms of lottery, sweepstakes, telephone, and internet scams. I know that especially during the pandemic, I have been bombarded with phone calls, especially about my social security number. And I really want to press 1 to talk to a person, but I know that's not the right thing to do, because I want to say, you know what I do for a living? I warn people about phone calls just like this. So Exploitation also comes in identity theft, and it can come from contractor fraud or home improvement scams. For instance, if someone you've let into your home and let's say they remodeled your bathroom and there's still that just one little thing that needs to get done, and they keep telling you, oh, well, I'll get to it. Oh, well, I get to it. Well, they're counting on the fact that you're not as vigilant as you might be if you're younger, like you're not as aggressive because you might be from a different generation where that's frowned upon. So the reason why seniors seem to be at a greater risk is because people think that they're sitting on significant amounts of money in their personal accounts. And not only that, not only your personal account, for some reason, some people think that you are physically sitting on a large pile of money with the doors closed in your home and not going out. They're preying on the frailties of aging. They're preying on the physical frailties and the mental frailties. Dementia runs in my family, and that is something that can be really, it can put a strain on the person who has it and their loved ones, but it also can make them a target. They're preying on, criminals are preying on the dependence of others, and they're preying on isolation. I think part of the reason why we're getting so bombarded with all these phone calls nowadays with the pandemic is we have been told to stay inside. And if you're 65 and older, and if you have any other underlying health issues, you've been told more than anyone to stay inside and isolate yourself from everyone else so that you do not become sick. So they're preying on that isolation and targeting people who have been told to stay in, or people who just choose to stay in. My grandmother was one of those people. She always lived alone. She preferred to be alone. So people eventually had to come and start taking care of her. Here are the people who are doing the crime the most. Sadly enough, family members and caregivers are at the top of the list when it comes to senior financial exploitation. These are the people who are coming into your home every day, or your grandparents' home, or your parents' home, and they're the ones who are cooking meals, who are maybe helping change their bed linens, doing things of that nature. And they're also the ones that could be targeting them the most. But why is it such a problem? Mainly because when you're older, you might be embarrassed to admit you've been exploited, and this is for all ages. I don't know of anyone of any age who, be it 25 or 65, wants to run out and go, oh, well, I got taken for $2,000 because somebody called and said, my best friend was in trouble. It's also because maybe they're loyal to a family member or a friend or a caregiver. For instance, if you co-sign on a car loan and you're on a fixed income and that person is going to default, maybe they knew they were going to default before you ever co-signed. And so now you're loyal to that person and you don't want to retaliate against them in any way that could ruin that friendship. Maybe retaliation is a reason why you don't say anything, or your loved one doesn't say anything. Dependence on the person who's doing it for daily assistance, denial, self-blame, and lack of awareness. Some people just aren't even aware that this is happening. So have you ever been a victim of identity theft? I've got a few polls today, and we're just going to kind of go through them. It kind of, this way we know that we're all still awake, that we're all paying attention. So if you're sitting in front of your computer, go ahead and answer this question. Have you been a victim? Have you not been a victim? Are you not sure? And when it says not sure, that could just be the fact that nothing has surfaced that you're aware of. When I do my credit and budgeting presentations, one of the questions is, how often do you check your credit report? And there's always people who say never. Well, if you're not ever looking into those things, you're not going to know if it's happening to you unless a big flashing light above your head. So let's see how everyone answered today. So, 38% say yes, 50% say no, and 13% say not sure. So maybe you're just not sure because nothing dramatically has happened. I know that someone kind of charged something very small, my credit card one time, and if I hadn't been looking for that and being very vigilant about my accounts, I probably wouldn't have noticed. And so it got nipped in the bud really quickly. For others, it's a common practice. Personally, I know someone who's had identity theft 3 times, and luckily each time their bank has come through and helped them with that. So what is identity theft? Identity theft is when a thief steals your personal information and uses it to commit fraud or other crimes. And your personal information, it doesn't have to be all of these things to do this either. It could be 1, 2, it could be independent of each other. So your social security number, that's a big one. Your birthday, your credit card and account numbers, and your PINs and passwords. And that's why you always hear people preach about make sure your passwords are complicated, make sure you've got characters, and make sure they're long enough and change them frequently. We do so much online today that really is something you should be keeping track of. So the easiest way to combat identity theft is never provide personal information in response to an unwanted phone call or letter. What does that mean? Or email. That means unless you initiate the contact, don't give out your information. Make sure you're protecting incoming and outgoing mail using a secure mailbox. Use direct deposit when you can. You should always try to use direct deposit as much as possible. Shred or destroy financial trash. What is financial trash? Well, that's anything that's going to have your bank account information on it, your credit card information on it, your bank statements, your mortgage statements, anything that comes about that could have any financial information on it that you should get rid of. Watch out for any errors on your bank accounts and credit card bills. Like I said, I had that small charge one time. It was kind of a test. That's been a thing. Another thing that's come up lately because of the pandemic is there's a scam. They're just testing your account, testing it for $5 and $10. And that is just a way to see, okay, well, if she doesn't notice this $5 charge, a couple times, then maybe she won't notice this $2,000 charge, or by this time it's too late and they've verified that the account that they're using and your information is correct, and that's how they're going to take you to the cleaners. Never provide bank account information, especially online, because, even if that's, oh, honey, I forgot the password to our bank account. Can you just email that to me real quick? No, pick up the phone, call that person, if it's your spouse, your partner, whoever it is, and give them that information verbally if you have to, because anything can be snatched away from you if you put it in writing and send it somewhere. And make sure you're reviewing your credit report. You can get your free credit report once a year at least at annualcreditreport.com. I know that in 2020 they were increasing the number of times you could get that free report because of the pandemic and all of the fraud and scam and all those things that were happening. So what do? You contact your bank immediately if you believe you're the victim of identity theft. You request copies of your credit report, which that's something you can do. At least, that's why it's so important that you're checking your credit report. You can place a fraud or freeze on your credit report or your credit, with any of the major credit reporting agencies, companies out there. And what that does is they make it so that anytime someone wants to access your credit, you'll get a notice. A fraud is one that you physically have to remove, and it's just on there until you get rid of it. And a freeze is something that's on there for 90 days. And so it will automatically go off unless you have to initiate it again. And if you think you've had any identity theft, you should contact the Federal Trade Commission. There's actually several things on their website, front page, and it's just a click and you go to it and you report whatever you need to. I reported scam phone calls recently. So, with everything going on with the pandemic, has anyone ever tried to steal your social security number? And this is pretty popular right now. It's always pretty popular. Social Security scams are actually one of the #1 reported scams to the Federal Trade Commission. I don't know what the problem is, but it's just the answer is no when someone wants your Social Security number. So let's see how everyone is stacked up. We're a pretty good group today. It looks like everyone's been pretty fortunate. We've got a lot of no's. We got a lot of I don't knows. And 14% of you say yes. I will tell you that when I have done this presentation in person, especially at a senior center, this is very common. It is very common for our seniors and the aging population to be taken advantage of when it comes to their Social Security number, because somebody might just sound so sweet and like honey over the phone, and they're not. So it comes usually in the form of an automated phone call, and it's threatening your benefits. I know that the one I think I have in this presentation, it says that press 1 to be forwarded to someone to discuss your Social Security number. And the problem with that is as soon as you press 1, they've got you on the hook for more information. And according to the Federal Trade Commission, millions of dollars are stolen every year through Social Security scams. And the thing is, the Social Security Administration is never going to ask for money, and they will not call you. And and the main thing to do is hang up and report it. When it comes to Social Security scams and people calling you, especially right now, I forgot to hide my poll, sorry everybody. When it comes to that, the main thing to do is hang up and report it. Like I said, millions of dollars are stolen every year through Social Security scams. And like I said, I think, gosh, I want to say probably starting in May through November of 2020, I got a phone call about my Social Security number being reported or not working, or my benefits running out, even though I don't draw Social Security benefits. I think I got a call once a week from an automated service. And here, let's see. There we go. Just trying to get the phone call to work.
Due to all your social benefits will be canceled until further clearance. In case you feel this is due to an error, you may connect.
Now, I hope everyone can hear this call.
Security Administration. In order to connect with a Social Security Administration officer, press 1 now.
So see, the thing about the phone call is they want you to do something so that they can see how far it's going to go. Now, in addition to Social Security scams, there's Medicare theft or medical theft in general. And this is when someone is trying to steal your medical information. And the problem is, you might think, oh, well, you know, this is no big deal. This is an easy fix. How is this really going to affect anyone or affect me? But the problem is 1.5 million adults are victims of medical identity theft every year. And that's a lot of people. Sadly enough, those are going to be our seniors. And the problem is you might go to, you know, you may be denied service through your insurance company. It affects your medical records and your insurance records in the sense that if somebody goes in and they have a different problem, or maybe they don't have the same problem you do, or maybe they do, and they get your prescription for your diabetes medication, or they get your refill for your blood pressure medication. Your medical records aren't going to be accurate. Your insurance claims aren't going to be accurate. You could also receive the wrong treatment, or perhaps harmful treatment, you know, things that you don't necessarily need, or your loved ones don't need. So Medicare theft, the things you need to watch out for is bills or services that you did not receive. So, you know, if you didn't have x-rays done on your knee and you're getting a bill for x-rays done on your knee, you need to make sure you need to call the doctor's office and you need to make sure everything is up to date and accurate because you don't want to be charged for something that didn't happen to you. If you get a contact from a collection agency for money you do not owe, so if you have a bill outstanding somewhere, maybe you're in Texas and you get a bill from a hospital in Indiana for some treatment you didn't, they're trying to collect money from you. That wasn't you, make sure you can dispute that. Maybe the insurance company tells you you have reached your limit and you haven't. Maybe you've been denied for insurance coverage or for a medical condition that you don't even have. That's another thing. And you might think these are really going to stand out. But for instance, when it comes to a collection agency, it's not an overnight thing. It's not, oh, here's your first bill and you didn't pay it, I'm sending you collections. It's a process to finally get a bill. It's not an overnight process for a bill to go to collections. So that could be sitting out there for quite a while before anyone sends it to collections, bringing it to your attention that you've had this happen to you. So what can you do? You can protect your Medicare and insurance cards. Never, make sure you put them in a secure place. Review your Medicare summary notices and your explanation benefits from your insurance companies. Do not give out your Medicare number for assistance. And what I mean for assistance is, let's say you, a loved one, have someone who is helping them with certain activities, chores, maybe they're picking up groceries for them. If they're like, oh, well, I need your Medicare number to pick up your prescription for you, the answer is no. Don't give that out to anyone. Now, the things you can also do is shred your medical paperwork. Make sure you destroy your prescription labels and packaging. I am really bad about this. Personally, I look at that little label and I go, well, what are you going to get for that? That little label has a barcode on it, and that barcode has all your information on it. So that's the problem there. So make sure you're removing those labels and throwing them away. When I did this presentation in person, I had a woman tell me that she would rip up her trash, medical trash, financial trash, anything personally identifiable trash, and she throughout the day would deposit like random pieces of this trash in different trash cans wherever she went, so that nothing would be together. And so she would just kind of dump it in different trash cans throughout the city where she lives. She would just do this all day. I mean, that's a lot, but it worked for her. The next thing we're going to talk about is fraud phone calls. How many times a day do you receive automated phone calls? I know for me, it's gotten a lot better this year in 2021, but last year when we, everyone being locked inside their houses, I feel like the fraud phone calls went through the roof. The automated phone calls were outrageous. It seemed every single day someone was ringing my phone to say, something, whether it's your car warranty, whether it's your social security number, whether it's for, was it your car insurance, the cruise you won, things of that nature. So it just seems like it was always happening. And let's see how one stands. It says 67% of you say twice a day. 33% say a few times a week. I will tell you that when I have done this presentation in person, our seniors every day, all day, are receiving phone calls. It's kind of like they look and they go, oh, this person is over 55. Let's call them. Let's make sure they're in the system to receive one of our fraudulent phone calls. So there's several different things about this. Fraudulent phone calls come in several forms. There's the lottery winnings. There is the one, this one's actually really popular. This is the one where you get a call and it says, hello, Grandpa, I'm in trouble. Please don't tell my mom. Well, I had someone tell me that they had a phone call from Canada, or well, someone pretending to be, I think it was their nephew, and he was calling from Canada, and he'd gotten into trouble and he needed help, and this person knew so much personal information. Thanks to social media, you can learn whatever you want to about anyone. It is out there for the taking. And, everything is so open nowadays. In 2019, more than 3.2 million people reported phone calls like this one. There are only 330 million people in the United States. So, and the Federal Trade Commission reports $660 million in losses. $660 million. And that's because these are the phone calls where people say, oh, send me a gift card, or send me, wire me some money, or send it to this bank account number. So this is why this is happening, and that's a lot of money. I could do a lot with $660 million. So there's also automated phone calls and robocalls. A robocall is trying to sell you something, and it is illegal unless the company has written permission to contact you. Political candidates and charities calling for donations are allowed. It's not illegal for them to contact you. And so robocalls are the ones coming from legitimate businesses with a live person speaking to you. Well, no, wait, let me take it back. So robocall. So it turns out robocalls are illegal if they're trying to sell you something. And if they're coming from a legitimate business and a live person, those are the ones that are not illegal. So when you automatically answer the phone, it's just a talking voice and they're waiting for you to hit a number and go through, that is not allowed. And you can get on the do not call registry for that. But what do they call and what can you do about them? Robocalls are cheap and easy to make from the internet all over the world. So they don't even have to be a real person on the phone. It's just a computer sitting there randomly dialing numbers and hoping someone connects. Scammers can fake the name and number that shows up, and it's called spoofing. Now, this I always remember when I lived in Pflugerville, my Pflugerville person today, I would get phone calls from a Hutto phone number. And I think they're like 512964. I think that's a Hutto. I can't remember off the top of my head, but so like we had our doctor's office there, we had our eye doctor, we had all these, offices that we went to Hutto for everything because it was so close to the house, even though we're in Pflugerville. And so I'd see the number and I'd say, oh, it's calling from Hutto, and I'd pick up the phone, and it was just a robocall because they're just spoofing off of some other. I've even received phone calls from my own phone number. How that's possible, I don't even know. That's a good one. Look into call blocking solutions. The do not call registry can only block calls from real companies, not scammers. So that's where the hang up is. A lot of people say, oh, put your number on the do not call registry. If it's a legitimate company, those are the ones that you can block. If it's a fake company and it's just a scammer, the do not call registry isn't going to help you. The best thing to do is to hang up and report it. Like I said, if you go to the Federal Trade Commission's website, I think right there on the home page is a little thing that you click for scams, for frauds. There's one you click on and you can do to report phone calls, just phone calls on the FTC's website. And I did that myself. So another thing about fake phone calls, and it also comes, one of the popular things is lottery and sweepstakes winnings. Recently you saw in the news where Powerball Mega Millions was just crazy. It was skyrocketing out of control. Well, the trick is, unless you actually took the time to go buy your Powerball or Mega Millions ticket, you didn't win anything. So that's the catch. And this really happens. But the difference is a lot of times they're going to be requesting upfront processing fees or taxes. And if you have to pay to play, no. And I'm not talking pay to play, go to the gas station, buy a ticket. I'm talking pay to play. They're calling saying you're winning and they want your money in return to collect your winnings. Another problem is it looks authentic. Claim checks can look like the real deal. Watermarks on them, the whole nine. There are sweepstakes recovery calls, though, however, and that's another thing where it's kind of like, oh, you missed out on this. You can still collect it, and you don't want that one either. So how do you avoid lottery and sweepstakes mishaps or being taken advantage of? First of all, never pay to play. So like I said, if they're saying, oh, send us $100 and we'll send you $2 million. No, thank you. You cannot win a contest you didn't enter. This could be a problem if, for instance, I know one year I was going to a lot of like bridal things with my best friend and signing up for everything under the sun because it was free. And then the phone calls for cruises are never ending at that point. So unless you really think you might win, don't sign up for that stuff. And you're putting your information out there because 9 times out of 10, they want a first name, a last name, and a phone number. Be suspicious of pressure to wire funds or send prepaid cards. Prepaid cards are really popular because, and I know someone recently was going to a store and they said that the man in front of them who was older was talking to someone on the phone and, he was like, well, how much am I supposed to put on all these cards, this and that, and he was being really loud. And someone finally stepped in and kind of just inserted themselves into his conversation to make sure he wasn't taken advantage of. And he left the store and he didn't get any of the cards. We don't know if maybe he left because he was embarrassed or maybe the light bulb went off and he realized that he was being taken advantage of. This just happened maybe 2 weeks ago. Real life situation, a friend of mine standing behind someone and this happened. And she knew by the conversation, the one side she was hearing and what he was attempting to do, that someone was taking advantage of him. So this happens all the time. Pay attention to warnings from your financial institution. This means, if they send out something that says, hey, we've got a notice, we've had identity theft, our accounts have been, taken, that your information has been stolen, make sure you are being vigilant and checking your accounts, checking your credit report to make sure that these things are accurate. If a caller says it's an emergency, verify the number. Going back to that grandpa phone call, that loved one scam that's so popular, make sure you have phone calls for the guardians, I guess, so to speak, of, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and someone you can call and reliably ask them, hey, where's little Johnny last night? Was he at home? Did he go to work this morning? Because 9 times out of 10, hopefully they're going to know where that person is supposed to be. Be wary of secrecy. If someone says, hey, don't tell anybody, the answer is no. Always say no. If you can't talk about it, if you can't share that information with someone, it's not worth your time and it's probably someone taking advantage of you. Now, if you have any questions today or anything you want to share, if any of this has happened to you, go ahead and put it in the chat box. If you have any things that you use, precautions that you take, I want to hear about those. I want to share those with everyone. And just go ahead and chime in if you want to. So staying safe online, phishing and spoofing. Phishing is going to look like an authentic email or text or web page that wants you to give personal information. And spoofing is an email address disguised to look like that of someone you know. For instance, this is a big one when it comes to my bank, I've noticed. I will get emails that say it's from my bank, and when I hover my mouse over the email address, you will see that it's at 1257 whatever, random letters and numbers. And I know right then and there that that is not a real email, and I should delete it immediately. When it comes to this, make sure you are deleting these emails and text messages immediately. Do not follow links. Do not click on attachments. They are just trying to get more information from you or the people you love. When it comes to being safe online, so a big story this morning, there is a guy right now who has, I think what they said, 260 million in Bitcoin, and there's a secure USB that he needs to open successfully in order to retrieve his money. But he's already tried 8 times because whatever password he entered, he can't remember what the password is. And after the next 2 tries, everything on this USB will be deleted and he will not be able to retrieve that money. And I mention that because we're talking about staying safe online. And while he did great picking a password 10 years ago, now he doesn't remember what it was. And so you want to make sure that, yes, your passwords are complex and you're keeping them safe, but also want to make sure that you can remember them. So, in addition to complex passwords, make sure your security software is updated frequently. Do not email financial information. We discussed that earlier. Do not open attachments or download files because those downloaded files or those attachments can have viruses attached to them and, malware. Use complex passwords. Shut down your computer when you're not using it because, hey, you don't want someone to come by and use it and it's just open. It's right there for the taking. Do not open messages from unknown senders. So if you don't know who sent it to you, don't open it. But I am glad you opened the one from Financial Education at occc.texas.gov to attend this webinar today. Delete suspicious messages and do not click on links or numbers. Delete emails and text messages asking you to confirm or give personal information. I haven't seen this one in a while. I know that in the past I've seen this, especially through text. A text message and you clicked on it and wanted me to enter information. I just don't click. It's not worth my time or my money. Here are a few phone numbers to keep in your back pocket. Especially this has to do with the older population, Adult Protective Services, the Federal Trade Commission. See that website right there, ftc.gov. Go there. You can report identity theft there. You can report those phone calls there. There's lots of helpful links on FTC's website. And don't forget about us, the OCCCC. We are here for consumer assistance, especially when it comes to our licensed and registered industries. So the key takeaways from today is to speak up if you have been the victim of fraud. Your story may help someone else. I mentioned that because especially when I did this in person, the audience would sit and tell their story of what has happened to them, and then someone else would chime in, and then someone else would chime in. And it gives that connection, and it makes people realize that you're not alone. When identity theft, Medicare theft, any kind of financial exploitation, when this happens, a lot of times it's kind of see it, report it, say something. Because other people might keep quiet because they think they're alone, because they're being silly, because they're embarrassed, because, how silly of them to be taken advantage of like that. Remember that financial scams come in many forms: text, email, letters, phone calls. Any way that someone can communicate with you, they could be trying to purge your financial information from you. Also remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, like that lottery scam. If you didn't buy the ticket, that $1 ticket to win your millions, and someone's calling you telling you 1 million, the answer is no, you haven't. And just say no. This includes close family and friends. And when I just say no, I mean when people come asking for money, the answer is no, unless you don't plan to get that money back. And asking for money also comes in the form of co-signing a loan. You are, at that moment, you're agreeing to that money, to whatever that is. Maybe it's buying a new pickup truck. I had someone tell me in person, they did co-sign with their son, and it was for like a $70,000 pickup truck. And guess what? He didn't pay it. And the person should have said no. If you want to lend money to someone, and even that includes co-signing, you want to see their bank statements. You want to see their employment history. You want to know that they financially can pay this bill. Because it's your money at the end of the day. It's your name. It's your credit history. It's your consumer confidence that they could be taking away from you. Financial exploitation comes in many forms. It attacks people of all ages, but our seniors are the ones that seem to be highly targeted. So watch out for yourself, watch out for your loved ones, and make sure that everyone has the tools they need in order to fight off being financially exploited. Again, I'm Andrea Johnson. I am the Grant and Financial Education Coordinator for the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner. You can follow us on Facebook at Texas Financial Education Endowment, that's our grant, and on Twitter at Financial Ed Texas. I do these webinars every Thursday at 10 o'clock. Next week, I believe I am doing budgeting. The week after that is credit, and the week after that is saving and credit for young adults. I hope everyone had a great day. I really enjoyed being with you all, and here's to the rest of your Thursday, and may you have a good weekend. Okay, everybody?